Hi, I am Eli Witek. I am the editor of the paper, and I am with Barb Shepherd, who is the publisher and co-founder.
So we thought we'd chat a little bit about how we got into journalism and what's what's important about it to us.
And it should be kind of funny. It's always funny when two reporters interview each other. Who starts?
I'll start because I'm older.
Age before wisdom? Wisdom before age? Yeah.
No, it's chronological.
Okay.
I got into journalism first.
Oh, yes.
You want to know how?
I'm dying to know. Please tell me. And when was it?
Well, it really started when I was quite young. My family always had a subscription to the Kokomo Tribune. I was born and grew up in Kokomo, Indiana. And my favorite feature wasn't the comics. It was the Paul Harvey column on the opinions page. And as I recall, it was called The Rest of the Story. I was captivated by the fact that he could go out, get information, share it with other people, and enlighten all of his readers to some truth. I hope it was true. I never questioned that at the time.
Well, it was on the opinions page, so yeah.
But that planted the seed. And then I must have been about 16. I wrote a letter to the editor of the Kokomo Tribune.
Wow.
And it got published. And then I saw my name in print, and we were done.
Yeah.
So, how about you, Eli?
Well, that's, yeah, I didn't know anything about that with you. Well, the funny pages. Come on.
No, they were good. I would give them second.
I know. I love the funnies. I won a prize off of like a drawing or, one of those kid things, and I got my photo in the paper. And
wait a minute, was it the Beacon?
No.
Oh, okay.
So,
that came later.
Yeah, later. But yeah, I had the clipping of that. Where my mom had a clipping of that in a drawer forever. And then I just always read the paper. For me, my fascination was like, I didn't understand why, how they would publish the bridge moves?
Yes. I never knew what they meant.
I have no idea what it meant. I still don't know what it means. Right. But that fascinated me. I was like, people are following along this game through time,
In print.
In print, yeah.
Well, newspapers do so many useful things.
Yeah. Well, you remember the one like the tennis moves too. Yeah.
Yeah, that one he called the box scores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I kind of understood what was going on there, but anyway.
Yeah, but people love it. But when it came to it, I never really thought about writing something and getting it into the paper. That was a surprise.
Well, what year did you start with the Beacon?
8 years ago, 2018.
Lucky. We were lucky that you made that decision. And I know that I remember when you first started, it seemed like you almost kind of took stock of the Beacon, and I think you're very good at evaluating and so. And you identified some things that we hadn't been writing about, that we probably should have been writing about.
Yeah.
And what do you remember about that?
Well, when the first stories and stuff, first pitches is more like is questions I had about the place that I grew up, and I would bike down here to the office from Casadega.
Wow.
And I would go over the Orange Camp one time, cars were zooming past, so I just stopped and I looked across the on-ramp and there was this small sign that said cemetery. I was like, what? There's a cemetery on a service road that is literally on the on-ramp to I-4. And I biked across the road and I went down and I saw, and it reminded me so much of New Orleans cemeteries. And I realized it was an African-American cemetery. And in this little patch of quiet by I-4. And so I was like, what is this? Why is this here?
Right.
And that was what was the part that kind of got me on the paper, is now I have a reason to find out. Mm-hmm. Now I get to call people and ask. Instead of just wondering about it, I can do something about it. And writing about it, I realized nobody had written about it. And Super Memorial Cemetery is Lake Helen's historic African American cemetery that was cut off from the community by the construction of I-4. It's technically an unincorporated county, and the last things that had been written about it were in the 90s, and it was about vandalism there.
Wow.
So
yeah, and I remember you did a series on the history of Spring Hill,
yeah,
for example. So certainly the Black community, we hadn't had connections there, and I think you forged a lot of important connections with us.
Well, that's
for
one.
us.
Yeah, well, it's one thing
them.
about that it can be, you know what you know or what you see. It's easy for us to write about what's across the street because it's across the street.
Mm-hmm.
I remember at the time you had told me there was a story about somebody coming in and saying that they never published the birth announcements
mm-hmm.
for African American children,
mm-hmm.
and it was because people hadn't walked in. So
mm-hmm.
you have to meet people where they are, and that's
mm-hmm.
how it's to really represent a community. It's not the community that walks in; it's the whole community.
Right.
But yeah, having a reason to find things out. That's that gave me the bug. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. I guess I got started at the DeLand Sun News in 1980, but I didn't go directly into the newsroom. I had some experience in, I guess we call it now graphic arts. It's very different from what we do now. That's what I started with at the Sun News, and then once again, I wrote a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
And the editor of the Sun News saw it, and he said, "Did you write this?" and he invited me to come over and start at the very basic level in the newsroom of just retyping things that people had submitted to the paper. So,
do you remember the first story I did? I quoted Jane Eyre.
Oh.
I did a story about like health businesses opening downtown. I went and interviewed all the people, and then the very beginning, I just gave a basic, these places are opening, these are some quotes, and then halfway through, I said, "Dear reader, I believe them," and gave my assessment of what they were doing. Like, it was totally different writing, like an argumentative essay instead of writing just a straight news piece. So there's like a different type of writing that's also quite interesting about it. Yeah.
And at a community newspaper, we have the freedom to explore those things
right.
in ways that some of the bigger publications don't, and to get to the topics that are important to the people who live here in our coverage area. We live here. The whole staff lives here, and we're close to the community. I think when I first started covering, I started out on the community news desk writing about what the garden club was doing and things like that. But when I first got the chance to report on what local government was doing, it just felt so good. I felt like I was channeling Paul Harvey. I'm going to find stuff out that's going to be important in your life, and then I'm going to put it in this story in a way that I hope is interesting to you and that will help enrich your life and empower you to have a full part in this community.
Yeah, and I think you start thinking in that kind of narrative too, of like how to get people interested into something that's important. You had told me at one point that you could probably write a story about a plastic bag, like drifting across the supermarket. You know what it's like you could write the headline and a lead for it in your head.
I do write, usually write in my head.
Yeah.
And I know people think I'm just, goofing off, but I'm actually walking around composing it in my head, and then when I sit down to the keyboard, there we go.
That's funny. We have a similarity in that way, except I'm maybe not composing word by word as much as this overall big picture. But that lead sentence sometimes, that really needs to break you off. It's the same. It needs to get the reader.
Right.
The whole point of writing and having the newspaper and all of it, you have to get them to read the information too.
Yes, dear readers, we do work pretty hard to get you interested, because we think it's important. We want you to hold your local governments accountable. We want you to call your mayor when you read something that upsets you. We want you to vote. And We don't care how you vote. We just want you to learn about the candidates and vote. And I think those are some of the things a community newspaper does for a community.
Yeah.
We've been here now 33, going on 34 years, I think. That involves math. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody much remembers what DeLand was like when we didn't have a local paper, but
you can look at a lot of other towns across the United States
absolutely.
to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because people go, well, why did this happen? And they have nobody to ask or anywhere to go. They don't feel empowered to do it without that.
And of course, everybody's got, well, not everybody, but most people have social media now. And sometimes they feel like, okay, I'm informed. I saw on Facebook where this happened and that happened. And guess what? It's not always true. It's not true, or it's not the full story or the full explanation, but we do take the time. We go to the meetings. We talk to the officials. We try to give you the full picture.
Yeah, I think we're not really asking each other questions.
Oh, we forgot that interview part.
The interview part. But like because one of the things would be examples of the ways the story has changed something. You know, is there any that pop into your head? There's just been so many. Like, there's so many small things,
and I don't think we really know.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as 10 extra people showed up for the fundraising picnic because we had an item about the paper. We're not necessarily going to be able to document that, but it is real.
And then one of those people joins the group
and becomes president 2 years later. Right. And all of a sudden you've changed a community with a little 3-inch blurb about an event that's coming up.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why those examples sometimes kind of blend together, because really it's this culmination of so many things like that. Even things that aren't blurbs. Us getting an email about a problem with a permit on a fence. We call the city. They address it. You know?
Yeah. I wish I could remember individual stories better, but I know one that you and I think both remember was the story of the horrible tragedy downtown where the mentally ill person killed another person they were both homeless. And I think the way that one thing that you've really taught me is that it is okay to slow down and really dig in and then report it, and that's something that's different about being a weekly newspaper compared to a daily newspaper. In a daily, you're probably going to do both. You're going to have, and we do it with the web. Maybe something short goes up on the web, and then we have a chance to step back and find out, well, why did this horrible murder occur?
Because that's what matters too. It's not just that event. It's not if it bleeds, it leads. It's also how did two people end up on the street that night?
Right, both with loving families.
Right. And the title of that was "Blood on the Boulevard and On Our Hands?" ? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think anybody who read that, understood that the community has to take some responsibility here, and
then 4 years later, following that case through court and writing about the conclusion of it, and seeing the family members of the two finally be able to speak to each other and hug and say, the daughter of the victim saying, they were the same, and I forgive him. So
those are important things, but they're not all that big. They're not always like that. I know
they're not always like that.
Right. I know. Just another small example, but it's recent. The city of DeLand is working hard to increase the safety of bicycle and e-bike riders. So this week's paper has a story about that. So we're trying to help the city get the word out about the changes in the laws and the new requirements for helmets, for example, which so.
We didn't figure out how we were going to end this, did we?
Oh, well, let's see.
So you always need the last sentence. The lead is good, but then it's the wrap up. I tend to overly rely on a quote. Yeah,
at the end.
At the end, but
there used to be kind of a little thing at the Sun News where that was the that was cheating. If you ended with
If you ended with a quote,
Yeah.
I have always kind of thought I was kind of cheating by ending with a quote instead of a final sentence. But yeah.
Well, we could pretend that we have hot deadlines that we've got to go meet or something.
Oh, that'd be great. Let's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's. All right.
All right.
We better get to work.
Well, we should mention though that before we go, that we are in the middle of our summer fund raising campaign because the Beacon now, because of the changes in the industry, the changes in news consumption, and the rising prices, we are in the position where we have to have donations from the community to be okay. So we hope that you will follow the link that I'm sure will be on this Facebook post and see if maybe you can afford to give us $2 a month or something like that on a sustaining donation. We would really appreciate it. And we want to keep doing all the important things that the Beacon does for the community.
Yeah, and feel free to stop by the office anytime.
That's right. If you've got a story, we want
to know.
We want you to walk in.
Okay.
All right.
Let's get to work.
Okay.